I know LT's going to have a lot to say about this, not just another almost weekly referendum on the state of MMA refereeing. We got to talk about what went on this Vancouver card, because referee either mistakes or maybe we could say questionable judgment played a key role in at least 3 fights, leading to fans calling for a major overhaul. Look, this was an absolute debacle. Veteran referee Dan Maragliata had mishandled moments in both the Kyle Nelson-Matt Frevola fight, including where he appeared to stop the fight rightfully in the closing seconds of round 1 before the buzzer, only to unnecessarily restart it, leading to Kyle Nelson getting both a knockout and a decision win in the same night, to what he did or didn't do in the Mike Malott Kevin Holland fight with multiple low blows and how that played a role in the result. We also have to mention referee John Cooper, who I like that he took away the point from Drew Dober against Kyle Prepolek, but you also have to question the when and how much that affected the ending of the fight. Either way, it's every single week here. It's important to note this is not a UFC problem per se. It's a commission, an ABC, Association of Boxing Commissions issue, but it's nonstop to the point that I got to go to the extreme here and how we break this down. Jed Meshew number 2, friend of the program, MMA Fighting Zone, had a tweet so aggressive that we did have to bring in Cuervo right now for something we like to call shots fired. Shots Fired is brought to you by Cuervo, and now is a good time to enjoy that tequila that invented tequila. Here is Jed Meshew's immediate reaction Saturday to what we saw. Quote, "I do not say this lightly. Dan Maragliata should never be allowed to referee again. Hashtag UFC Vancouver," end quote. LT, let's be real here. Is the idea of a suspension or even firing Maragliata too extreme, or is this necessary or something like this to fuel some type of immediate change that we seem to cry about every single week?
I don't even know where to start with something like this. Dan Maragliata had a terrible night. He had a terrible night. For starters, in the Frevola fight, where he appears to wave the fight off because he can't hear the clapper. This was the not hearing the clapper situation happened previously this year with Big Dan. So this is now the second time this year that we've seen a situation like this happen. That's sort of the one issue. But I mean, obviously that wasn't the only fight where the Kevin Holland fight where he refuses to take a point, among a series of other problems with how that was officiated. There's just a lot going on where it seems like there's a couple of problems, BC. It seems like there's a lot of common figures that we've seen for a long time that we've kind of gotten used to, who maybe appear to be declining on the job. That's up for debate, but certainly I think a bit of a feeling. And then that is kind of going in conjunction with sometimes, dude, like we're watching weeks where the referees just make it up. The Australia card, where it was a submission. Oh no, he's awake. No, it's not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're intervening or you're not. You're making a judgment call or you're not. And either they're not taking points or they're intervening at the very wrong times, or, you know, just they don't seem to have a command of the job in ways that you would expect top tier referees to do, and to the point that now it's seemingly ad-libbing. I don't even know where to begin with this. I mean, I'm just going to say it out loud. The commission model, the way that we have designed, the way in which it has spread throughout the country, this is a failed model. As long as I have been around, we have been having conversations like this. And it is not to say that there have not been improvements over time, or it's not to say that there aren't individual commissioners, judges, refs, timekeepers, you name it, who aren't loyal servants to the states in which they work and to the athletes to whom they're charged to protect. There are people who are trying to do this, but as a system-wide situation, it's a complete failure. There's total regulatory capture from the ABC to the CSAC to the Nevada Athletic Commission, making, for example, pay private for whose sake? Certainly not the athlete's sake. You know, there's that kind of thing that's happening. More to the point, BC, like there was a bit of a discussion. It's like, which sport doesn't have referee scandals or controversies? And the answer is all of them do. But dude, like, in order to be an NFL ref, the amount of training you have to go through and the amount of money that is spent training them to be able to do that and then to pay them their talents, these are vastly in excess of what you get on the combat sports side. You see, more to the point, For example, in American football, they have better systems to review bad calls. Bad calls still get made, but they have more of them. Also, more to the point, in these other sports, BC, where, for example, in baseball, you have to call literally balls and strikes and outs at home plate. You're making a large amount of public calls all the time. In MMA, you're asked to make maybe in a round a handful of calls. And even that minor amount still appears to be tripped up. But I've done this before. I've done this song and dance being like, we've got to demand accountability. We've got to demand change. There is none. It cannot be done. The system is short of Nick Diaz getting banned for 5 years for marijuana, which was so bad as a controversy that it bubbled its way up to the governor's office and then they intervened. Short of that kind of intervention, BC, the kind of standard, hey, we're at the UFC Apex, or in this particular case, Vancouver, Canada, and the referees kind of bungled it. There's no way for this to push the news into a place that it can ever lead to any kind of accountability. This is just what it is. Dude, they turn in these scorecards and they won't let anybody talk to any of the referees or the judges. Yeah. It's this over and over and over again. So I just want to say, I'm not saying that there's not a case to complain or certain guys couldn't be subbed into roles and they'd be better than other ones. I'm just saying this is a lifetime of friction you have to get used to, because this system can only be scrapped. It cannot be reformed.
I think that's right. And while I say it's not the UFC's fault, and it definitely isn't the way the system is set up, I would like to see them or Dana go scorched earth again. I mean, in the past, if it was Steve Mazzagatti or who was the other guy, Luke? Mario Yamasaki? That guy? I mean, they damn near ran those two out of a job.
Yeah, but hold on. Like, here's the thing with the UFC. It's like, dude, did Yamasaki have some bad calls? Of course. Or Steve Mazzagatti, or whoever you want to name. John Shorley had a bunch of bad calls. That's true. And I don't want to, dude, some people are going to be better at this than others, and we want to spotlight the high achievers. I don't know what the answer is, BC, but there's never been an entity like the UFC in all of combat sports, both in terms of the scope of its business and the amount of money that they have. I don't know how to make this work from a act of legislature. I don't know what the mechanism would be, but dude, they should be taxed on this. They should be taxed into getting better referee training, better officiant training, better money for people who do this, rather than just, hey, the states have to pay for this and we're just going to let it be a state thing, because as long as the states are funding it, it's going to be underfunded. If you want a higher level of funding, the one entity that essentially controls the whole joint, they should be on the hook for a little bit more of this.
Right. I think the commissions need a backbone. It's the same thing we say when they make decisions that, totally favor the power promoters. We'd like a backbone in those instances. I'd love a backbone to create a level of accountability. I'm not saying Dan Miragliotta has to get fired. He's got a long career. He's done a lot of great things. But if you're slipping, whether you're a boxing judge, whether you're an MMA referee, whatever it is, I think there should be a public comment about it. We're going to look into it. We're going to suspend a guy. We're going to pull somebody off. It's like when Adelaide Bird had that horrible scorecard and Golovkin Canelo won. And that was the only time I remember, particularly the media at that post-fight press conference going after Bob Bennett of the Nevada Commission, being like, you just say, oh, it was one bad night. But these one bad nights cost these fighters sometimes a big turn, a direction in their career, life-changing money. We know how tight the margins are for UFC fighters. So to see 3 fights ultimately affected on here in aggressive ways, something's got to be done here for full accountability to I don't want to reset and bring in inexperienced guys. We hate when UFC goes to a state that doesn't normally regulate, high level UFC, and we see inexperienced people in there. But something's got to be done, because not only is there a reluctance, it seems, from the big name referees of inserting themselves into the fight by establishing early, not with aggressive hard warnings and then points. And I think obviously you can take a point without a warning if it's something that is impacting the fight. They seem not only afraid to make those decisions, they seem like they don't know what the right decision is in some of these big key moments. So it looks like a clown show where the fighters are essentially their future. When you're getting show and win money, half of your salary is dependent on these people getting it right. We do have some form of instant replay here, but if you can't jump in and instant replay something or situation where everyone around can be like, I don't think that's the correct way to handle it, then we don't have a good system. So Luke, let's talk quickly about these fights and what happened and what could have, should have. Let's start with Mike Malott there versus Kevin Holland because it was higher up on the card. Mike Malott landing a multiple groin strikes. The first one being a full-on kick, the second one being a knee that grazed in the first round. Kevin Holland did not look fit to continue. He took the full 5 minutes. He wasn't responding well to being asked if he continued. Then at the end of the first round, he comes out still looking like he can't fight. He gets an extended time to rest and talk about it as the ringside doctor is there. And then Marigliotta is like, well, look, if you don't continue, you're going to lose by DQ. So he continues and he loses anyway, despite, by the way, rallying and bloodying the nose of Mike Malott. How should that have been handled differently? Or can I just tell you how it should have been? Maybe an aggressive warning and a point on the second one. What the hell are we doing here? Like you always say, the fighters have no reason not to do this, whether it's on purpose or you're just saying, if it happens, it happens. You have no reason not to do that. Eye pokes, at least we're trying to put it out there that we give you reason not to do that. What the frick, dude? How do you not take a point on that second crotch strike within a minute of each other?
I don't know. This is what I mean. I don't know. I don't know why anything works the way that it does, but this is the way that it does. Like you're asking like what Miragliotta should have done. It's like, well, at what stage? You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of different decisions that could have been made in a few different directions at a few different times. But I basically agree with you. There should have been a point taken. Like 2 times like that. It clearly affected him the rest of the fight. He was even tweeting today he has to go get, I think, I don't know if an MRI or a CAT scan or some kind of ultrasound on his junk because it's all jacked up. It's
Yeah,
like,
we got a tweet here. Let's show one of the earlier tweets from Holland after the fights if you can. Man, Fook, what y'all talking about? Bro kicked a STD into my dick. My nuts hurt. So while that, Luke, is maybe outside of the realm of proper human public speaking, we get the point, dude. Like, I mean, what the hell is Kevin Holland supposed to do in this? He's faced with he's faced at the end of the first round, whether it's the legality of the law or not. He was put in a corner by Marigliotta that said, you can either continue or you're going to lose by DQ. Which one's it going to be? No, Dan, how about you enforce that shit, man?
Yeah. Why isn't there a point taken, which, by the way, could change the equation, if not in this bout, certainly in others, in terms of how the scoring works. And also, dude, like you're beating a very diminished opponent. You're beating a guy who can't shake groin pain that is both distracting and it could be even like, it makes it hard to move nimbly. Like it's a tremendous handicap. And then he has to go and compete like this with, again, no recourse being taken at all. Why would you not cheat if you had to in MMA? What would be the argument? It's like literally, and I'm saying this as honestly as I can, the only argument against fouling in MMA is if the fighter fouling feels like they don't want to do that because they want to compete in an honorable way, but for their own sense of virtue preservation. But in terms of like a practical matter, it is foolish to not foul. It is foolish. It is foolish.
And this was 2 fouls, and it was the same foul.
They won't do anything. I know in the Prepelec fight there was that foul, but then that one came only after the second offense, which, okay, at least you got something there. But even then, it was kind of predicated on whether or not the thing was bad enough over time.
Yeah, that was referee John Cooper, who could be heard telling the commission during the 5-minute break that Prepelec had. And by the way, that was Drew Dober winding up for a full-on soccer kick to the nuts. He told the commission, if he makes it to the 4-minute mark being Prepelec and is still hurt during this 5-minute period, then I'll take away a point. And it's like, what if look, I get that there's grazing fouls. Those can get a warning. But whether the second consecutive foul is grazing or not, if you got a warning, the second foul should be a point. And if the first foul is as aggressive as the kick that hit Holland or that wind-up kick that hit Prepelec, if you establish that we are taking points for this, just like in football that you can't go helmet to helmet anymore. You know what I mean? Just like in football that that you have that strike zone of where you can tackle somebody, you could force the fighters to change the way they do it, but you have to enforce it. Here's Mike Malott talking afterwards about the effect of these low blows on this fight against Holland, but he's the one that got the win, by the way.
I think we both threw kicks at the same time, and one of mine went low first. And then that second one, like, my knee hit him in the hip. My shin, I think, brushed his cup, but like I gotta watch it back. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm like, dude, I swear my knee hit him in the hip, like right above the belt line there. But he's just so tall, man. It's hard to like, his dude's like all limbs, right? It's like his hips are so high, it's hard to get that knee up. So, you know, I'm sure my shin did hit him in the groin, and you know, I bet it hurt. I don't think he was, you know, being dramatic or anything. I'm sure it was bugging him. But yeah, a bit of an odd one. But all right, that happened. You can't control it. There's 10 straight minutes. Let's just get back to it and reset her and refocus. And my coaches did a good job of just being like, look, don't worry about that. You're probably down one. Let's adjust. Let's, you know, do this. Get out there and go win this fight. You got 10 minutes to do it. And yeah, felt good with it.
Yeah, what about like in the moments after that where he's like wincing and stuff still and turning his back to you and like kind of all those moments? Is it tough to figure out how to navigate what you're going to do?
Yeah, like he's like a chaotic guy. Is he doing that because he wants me to like rush in and do something stupid and he's going to rip a right hand or something like that and try and knock me out? Like, is he playing possum? Can he just not continue? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have just gotten on him a little bit more. But whatever, man. Hindsight's 20/20.
I mean, I don't think Malott had bad intentions, but when he says my shin grazed his cup, but the knee landed on the hip, you still hit him in the crotch for the second straight time. So, Luke, I know the rules are the rules, but shouldn't have this fight as Holland being forced to fight in the final minute, circling away. I know you could say, well, because they already restarted the fight, it should be a DQ, but shouldn't it just been a no contest at that point? It's obvious this guy can't continue, but doesn't want to quit. The other guy followed him twice. Can we just have that loophole in the rules that should be a no contest and we rematch it down the line?
I mean, you get back to these other problems. Like, you know, yes, he was kind of sort of coerced, but Holland did elect to continue. Like, what the fighter wants is not the ultimate arbiter of everything, but it's an important one. You have to count it. And then if you know your pay is going to get halved as a consequence of this, you know, I mean, the incentive structure in place it's going to mess it up. Plus, a lot of these guys just, you know, as a matter of pride, are going to say no. I think that would have been what you're prescribing, BC. I think would have been certainly a better solution than this weirdness that we've ended up getting. But you know, I'm not asking for perfect solutions. I'm just asking for better standards of application, better understanding of the importance of, like, dude, you cannot have a system that doesn't penalize fouls. You cannot do it. It ruins everything downstream from it. It is such a bad way in which to let it go forward. And they have married it. And all of the things you'll notice, BC, there's just now a series of other things that happen by virtue of them not doing it that then compound the problem even further as the bout proceeds. It's like getting some of these things, these core questions right early actually has a much more of a deterrent effect long term rather than, you know, waiting for disaster to strike and then still doing nothing about it. It's, you know, I don't know exactly what all the right answers are, but I think the first and foremost one is enforce penalties, and let's see where we can go from there.